Hello everybody and welcome back to another short bit segment from IJ Apps, where today I'll be covering how to programmatically set the image in an ImageView through Java. I will cover two different methods of setting an image, through bitmaps and resources. If you don't already know how to add an image to Android Studio, I strongly recommend that you check out my previous short bit on how to add images to your Android app. Otherwise, let's get started. So what we're going to do in our app is have an image view displaying an image, and when that image is clicked, it's going to switch from one image to the other, and when the image view is clicked again, it's going to switch back to the original image. So let's get started. I'm going to have an image view, and then I'm going to set its width and height to match parent. Also, I already have a relative layout here, so if you haven't already changed your constraint layout to a relative layout, I would advise that you do that, because I'm going to set this to Android layout center and parent. And I'm going to set that equal to true. That's why it's in the center of our screen. And then I'm going to provide it the ID of ID equals, and I'm going to say @+ID, and I'm going to give it the ID of IMG. And finally, I'm going to set the image to Android source, and I'm just going to set it something from MipMap. So like the default IC launcher icon that appears when you run your application. That's what our image view is going to display initially. But then once we start clicking it, it's going to change. I'd like to note that I'm not going to be covering how to add images to Android Studio, because I covered that in a short bit segment called Adding Images to Your Android App. And if you don't already know how to add images to your Android Studio, please go check that out. But now I'm going to head on over to mainActivity.java, and I'm going to create an object for my image view. So I'm going to say, come over here and say ImageView, IMG, semicolon. And I'm going to come inside my onCreate method. So when the app's launched, it's going to be able to find the image view. And I'm going to say img equals findView by ID or.id.img. And now what I'm going to do is set an onTouchListener. That way I can detect when the image view has been touched. Another thing that we should do, since we want to detect whether one image is displaying or another, is have a Boolean variable that tells us whether a certain image is displaying or if it's not. So I'm going to say Boolean image1 displaying equals false. Okay. Then inside my onTouch method, I'm going to have an if statement. I'm going to say if image1 displaying, and then I'm going to do some stuff. Otherwise, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something else. So over here, if image1 is displaying, switch. I'm going to say switch to image2. And that's just a comment. That way we can keep our code organized. Otherwise, if image1 is not displaying, then we want to switch it to image1. Okay. Now that we have that established, let's go ahead and set our image view to a certain image. So if we type in img, which is our image view variable, .set image, you can see we have all these different methods of setting the image view. But I'd say that if you want to set it from the image to something from drawables, then the easiest way to do it would be image.setImageResource, because now all we have to do is provide an ID. So I'm going to say r.drawable, and then I'm going to say .helmet. And helmet is one of my images. Your names may vary, so make sure you're choosing the right one. And now I'm going to come to my else statement over here, and I'm going to say image.setImageResource r.drawable.shield. Now the last thing we have to do is change the variable once the image has been changed. So if image1 is displaying, we're going to change it to image2. And now we want to say that image1 displaying is false. Okay. And then if image1 wasn't displaying, now we want to say that it is displaying, because we're setting it to our first image. And in my case, the first image is the shield. Now I'm going to run the app to show you that it works. So I've run the application, and you can see that I have it open over here. And this is my image view, and it's displaying the default image. Once I click on the image, you can see that it changed to Captain America's shield. I'm going to click on it, it changed to Iron Man's helmet. And if I keep clicking on it, you'll see that it alternates between the two images. That's great. Now I'm going to show you a second way of setting the image. Because if you remember when we did img.setImage, we saw a bunch of different methods. And I'm not going to go through all of them because there's simply too many, but I'm going to show you another very important one, which is the bitmap. Because you'll find yourself using bitmaps very often. And what a bitmap is it's a lossless file format for images. And you'll find yourself using it when you're getting images from the camera or from a photo gallery from the phone. So in order to use this, I'm going to say img.setImageBitmap. Then I'm going to say bitmap factory.decode resources. Then I'm going to provide it, you can see once a resource. So I'm going to say get application context dot get, let me zoom out a bit, dot get resources. And now I have to provide it the ID. So I'll say r.drawable dot helmet. And I'm just going to copy and paste this line over here, replace the old one with this, and I'm going to change this to shield. And I'll run this too to see that it works. So as you can see, both methods of setting the image work through set image bitmap and set image resources. So that's all for this short bit segment. Don't forget to share the video with friends and subscribe to the channel. Until then, happy developing from IJ Apps.